Manager Services.
Determination and operational strength are both essential factors for growth in asset management. I'm Steve Meyer, President and Head of SEI's Investment Manager Services Division. We know that disruptive forces create opportunities around the world. If you see potential in change, our industry specialists will maximize SEI's integrated platform of data and risk management, global investment operations, compliance support, and investor services to position your asset management business for success. Come grow with us.
With SEI Investment Manager Services, you lead the charge in a competitive marketplace. Learn more at SEIC.com/C's change.
With the NHL season temporarily on ice, now is a good time to catch up on past games. With Game Replay on TuneIn, you can hear every matchup of the 2019-2020 season so far. And for a limited time, it's free for hockey fans everywhere. Search Classic Game Replays to start listening. Be part of the college sports conversation on TuneIn. Hear the latest storylines around SEC football with the Paul Feinbaum Show.
I distinctly remember when you were hired, and I must say most of us thought you were out of your mind. Giving up, I wouldn't call it a cush job because you were traveling across the country.
Get your college hoops fix with college basketball talk on NBC Sports.
Headed by Shabazz Napier. That also included Amita Brima, who is in and around the NBA ranks right now, and DeAndre Daniels, who was the 37th pick in the 2014 NBA draft. So my question to you is...
Or listen to the daily news from around the wide world of college football with College Football Live.
I would go with Utah. I think Utah is the better team. And I know I'm talking to an Oklahoma guy, but listen, and it may be recency bias having watched Utah last week and doing that game, but I just think they're a more complete football.
Discover these and more college sports podcasts right here on TuneIn. Stay on top of everything happening in the pro wrestling universe with the Body Slamming podcasts on TuneIn. For passionate recaps of the most recent SmackDown to a pro wrestler's perspective on life and culture at large, search sports and scroll down to the world of wrestling to listen.
How do you keep track of all your favorite stations and podcasts? Easy. You add them to your favorites list. Just find the audio you want to bookmark and tap the heart icon. Then, whenever you want to browse your favorites, you'll find everything under the Favorites tab.
The moves may be choreographed, but the drama is real.
I dare you! I beg you to come down here right now!
Stay on top of everything happening in the pro wrestling universe with the Body Slamming podcasts on TuneIn. For passionate recaps of the most recent SmackDown, check out the What's Wrong with Wrestling show. And for a pro wrestler's perspective on life and culture at large, listen to Talk is Jericho. For these and more podcasts, search sports and scroll down to the world of wrestling.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Hey everyone, this is Chris Sproul from the First Draft Podcast. 2020 NFL Draft is on ESPN Radio on TuneIn. Starting Thursday, April 23rd, ESPN Radio has you covered with live coverage, discussions, and analysis of every pick from every round. Be there when the future stars of the NFL find their new home and when your team selects the players that will shape their future for seasons to come. Don't miss the biggest event of the offseason. It's live on TuneIn.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. The Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all lower. Oil, a major story today. Oil futures collapsing to below zero for the first time ever as the deepening economic turmoil caused by the coronavirus left traders desperate to avoid taking delivery of physical crude oil. Stocks pulling back from a 6-week high. We've got the S&P 500 index lower now by 32 points, down 1.1%. The Dow bouncing along the bottom, down 410. That's a drop of 1.7%. NASDAQ down 25, a drop there of 0.3%. 10 years up 5/30 seconds. The yield 0.62%. Gold up 0.6% at $16.92 the ounce. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Well, let's turn to the medical side of this. This was a story that was one of the first I read this morning, in part because of its writer, Robert Langrath. He joins us on the phone from Massachusetts. He and the team have been doing just some phenomenal work. It really helps us understand the complexities, but also both the potentials and the challenges of where we go here medically. He joins us, as well as Joel Weber, the editor, of course, of Bloomberg Business Week. Joel's on the phone from Brooklyn. Joel, I want to start with you because you guys have done a really nice job of keeping the medical piece of this front and center, even going back, it's like 5, 6, however many weeks ago, with some of the great cover stories. I've lost track of time, bro. But help tee this up for us.
Yeah, so you're right. This is sort of one of the beats that we kind of keep coming to in our coverage, which is we look at the fallout and the companies, and we got to come back and talk about the science and the tech. Regeneron is really the subject of this story, and Bob and Susan have just been this amazing duo throughout this process. And we sat them down back when we could sit down together, and it feels like so long ago, Jason, to your point. And we said, what is the body of work that you guys want to be working on? And they basically just ticked through a bunch of ideas, and we said, go get it. And it turned out that Regeneron of all of them was actually sort of in our backyard here in New York. The company's based in Westchester. This is obviously a company that has just surged this year, top performing company year to date. And it's all in part because of these antibody treatments that they're developing. And Bob, why is that cause for hope?
Well, so basically, the reason is that this virus, this COVID, it's looking increasingly obvious, like it's not going away anytime soon. And we're really going to need to develop custom treatments against this. That is, drugs that are specifically designed to target this COVID, because the vaccine might take a while. And these antibodies that Regeneron is developing, those are likely to be some of the first custom-designed drugs that could come out against this coronavirus. And Regeneron, in particular, has been working on antibodies for a lot of diseases for a long time, but even though they don't sell any drugs for infections now, they've been quietly working on antibodies for various infections for a long time. And they had, literally a month or two before the coronavirus happened, they had the most successful trial in the history of Ebola treatment, and that was their antibody cocktail. Now they're trying to do the same, what they did with Ebola for the coronavirus, devise antibodies that would block the key spike proteins in the top of the virus and basically neutralize the virus. And you could inject this in and use it either potentially as a treatment for sick patients or kind of as a prophylactic for like high-risk workers like doctors and nurses and people kind of going into the line of fire.
How difficult is it, Bob, to get to it? Like, in other words, to get finally an antibody treatment that actually works? We've got lots of folks working on it, but it sounds like that there's a fair amount of failure to be expected along the way.
Like anything in drug development, there's absolutely no guarantee it'll work. There could be, side effects that, they don't expect. But there's absolutely no guarantee that, that's one reason why there's actually several companies working on it. So Regeneron's one doesn't work out. There's AstraZeneca, there's a company called Zero Biotechnology, Eli Lilly's working on it. So there's like several kind of efforts that are like semi competing with the other parallel efforts. So there's like several kind of shots on goal is kind of what they call it. But there is reason to be hopeful that the antibody treatment, has a better odds of success than some other, treatments. And one reason is it does have this track record. It works against Ebola and some particularly tough viral diseases. And we quote in our story the former head of the FDA, Scott Gottlieb, saying, if I had to bet on any one drug treatment working out and being able to help, it would be some of these antibody drugs. So because the technology has really, increased amazingly in speed and specificity over the years.
And so,
Bob, and what would that look like?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Say you're able to, say that this proves, as promising as everyone sort of expects. How would Regeneron go about scaling it?
Yeah, so that is one definite question that we do raise in the story about the antibodies. And historically, antibodies are kind of niche drugs. They're very expensive specialty drugs for things like lung cancer and autoimmune diseases that are very expensive and used by, a small segment of the population. So definitely, if this works, this will definitely strain the manufacturing capacity. They were talking about by August maybe having the capacity to produce either 20,000 treatments a month or 200,000 like prophylactic treatments a month. So obviously, if this thing is still going strong, that's like almost like a drop in the bucket. And we also discussed in the story, there's like informal discussions among drug companies and nonprofits saying, hey, if your one works out but mine doesn't, like maybe we could all kind of combine our manufacturing capacity to be able to make more of it. So that's an absolutely key question. With any of this stuff, if it works, will they be able to make enough?
Well, and I do wonder about that sort of collaboration and competition and everything that normally happens in this world. How has that changed as you look across this entire industry, Bob?
Well, I mean, the different companies, as we look at it, are still, doing different efforts on antibodies and slightly different approaches. So a lot of different companies doing different things. What's new and what's different is there kind of is more of a spirit of like, keeping in touch with what would normally be your competitor and talking to them about, you're doing X and I'm doing Y and like how might we work together and, if we need to work together, we will. So there is kind of this feeling that, some companies, may need to donate kind of manufacturing capacity to whatever turns out to work, and not sit on it. If someone else's drug works and but yours doesn't, you may need to kind of donate your manufacturing capacity to the cause in some way, and not be worried about the fact that it's someone else's drug that's the one that turned out to work. And that's the kind of discussions that we're hearing are going on right now. Now, there's nothing specific into place because none of these things have worked yet, so we don't know. And so for the time being, it's good that Regeneron has a lot of other companies are working on similar type drugs. So you just can't predict which of these things are going to work till you test them.
So, and I do think about, we just talked with the CEO of Intercontinental Hotels, like thinking about, it will be steps. We hear it from our policymakers, Bob, steps in kind of getting us back to normal. And even if it's not a vaccine, this may be one of the things that starts to help communities. I think you end your story, help communities return to a semi-normal state until a vaccine is finally available. And just got about 30 seconds here. That's what the drug industry, like we need to be thinking, right? How do we take those steps? And the drug industry is crucial in all of this.
Right. So none of these drugs in development really will replace the ultimate need for a vaccine. But I think the idea is, and the thought we do end the story on, is that if you can get some treatment that kind of takes the edge off this a little bit, maybe, takes off the worst consequences or helps protect some of the key essential workers, then it'll be easier to kind of end some of lessen some of the social distancing until that time when we finally get a vaccine.
All right. Thank you so much. This is a must read. I'll put it out on Twitter for everybody. It will also be in the magazine this week and on the terminal and at Bloomberg.com. Bob Langrath, healthcare reporter at Bloomberg News on the phone, along with Joel Weber, editor of Bloomberg Business Week magazine.
All right. For those of you listening in New York, D.C., and San Francisco, watching on YouTube, Bloomberg Business Week is going to continue right here. If you're listening on Bloomberg 106.1 up in Boston on an empty marathon Monday, Bay State Business, it's coming up next.
Okay, people, I've got the daily checklist. Who today has ignored a call on purpose? Tick. Talked yourself out of a workout? Tick. Spent far too long scrolling on your phone? Tick. Here's another for your list. BritBox. Streaming the BBC, ITV, Channel 5, and now Channel 4. All in one place and ad-free. So add BritBox to your list and get a 30-day free trial of the biggest box of British box sets. Search BritBox free trial. Tick. Biggest compared to other SVOD providers. Auto-renews at $5.99 a month unless cancelled. T's and C's apply.
America, your children have an amazing superpower. They can help save lives by not having play dates. That's right. By replacing get-togethers with virtual play dates and video chats, they can help slow the evil spread of germs. And if your superheroes do go outside, make sure they continue their superhero wing by staying 6 feet away from others to protect everyone in America land. Find out more at coronavirus.gov. A message from the CDC and the Ad Council.
Get your MLB fix with these great podcasts on TuneIn. Fill your seventh inning stretch with the Ringer MLB Show.
I just can't get over it. It's like, oh, well, Jeter Downs. Didn't realize he was a top. Like, my dad is drinking the Kool-Aid on this. He's like, of course. Mookie was going to leave. I'm like, what do you mean? You don't know that.
Slide into second with the Starting Nine podcast.
Nolan Arenado slides right into the top spot for favorite baseball player active in the league right now. It is a pleasure to be sitting next to you, sir.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
This is we've been waiting a long time for this. We actually, in terms of like active
Round the Bases with the StatCast podcast.
Ways of going about it. I picked third, so in some ways it made it easier for me. Mike, just to go over the first couple of picks, Mike took Barry Bonds, who I think was kind of the obvious guy to take number one. Not only
catch these and more MLB podcasts right here on TuneIn. Want to know a great way to discover the latest and greatest sports audio on TuneIn? It's easy. Just make sure push notifications are enabled on your phone to receive recommendations of sports talk radio and podcasts, along with important breaking news updates.
Wi-Fi connection spotty? Make sure you're never without something to listen to by offlining your podcasts on TuneIn. Just find your favorite podcast and tap the three dots to download the episodes you want to hear. When you're off the grid, you'll find all your offline audio under your favorites. In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
Financial capital of the world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. We move into the final hour of trading. We have got the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all declining. Lows of the day right now. Oil, though, the big story, oil futures collapsing to below zero for the first time ever as the deepening economic turmoil caused by the coronavirus crisis leaves traders desperate to avoid taking delivery of physical crude. The end of the May contract forces physical receipt at a time when storage capacity is low. June prices are below $23 a barrel. S&P 500 index low of the day now down 49 points, a drop of 1.7%. Dow Jones Industrial Average down 555 points. That is a drop right now of 2.3%. NASDAQ down 77, a decline there of 0.9%. 10 years up 5/30 seconds with a yield of 0.62%. Gold up 0.5% at $16.90 the ounce. So a down day on Wall Street. The chief U.S. economist at Morgan Stanley, Alan Zentner, says gross domestic product could drop by 50% in the second quarter. She was interviewed this morning on Bloomberg Television.
We feel we've captured it properly with a 38% Q-over-Q annualized decline in the second quarter, which would be the sharpest drop into recession on record. But have we gotten it properly negative enough? Is it negative 50%? It absolutely could be.
United Airlines holding shares tumbling today after the company said it expects to record a $2.1 billion loss in the first quarter as coronavirus all but erases air travel demand for the month of March. UAL down 5.5%, American Airlines down 5.2%, Delta down 3.6%, Southwest, which had been on the plus side, now lower by 1.1%. So again, recapping here, looking at a down day on Wall Street with the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all trading lower. Lows of the day right now. S&P 500 index down 46, down 1.6%. Dow Jones Industrial Average lower now by 2.2%. NASDAQ down 0.8%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that's a Bloomberg Business Flat.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Let's head out to California now. Governor Gavin Newsom giving an update.
Which are on the phone today. But I've also been very blessed by someone that I know very well, and that's my wife, the first partner of the state of California. She, in partnership with Tony Thurman, Linda Darling Hammond, members of my team, Ben Cheetah and others, have been working hard over the last few weeks to build on the announcement we made a few weeks ago about those 100,000 free Wi-Fi hotspots that Google is committed to rolling out throughout the state of California, and the 4,000 Chromebooks that they made available to build on the work that Apple has been doing in 800 school districts, 10,000 iPods that they have donated, and to do even more to meet the needs of millions of Californians that simply don't have access. Jen has been working the phones. She's had good days, like some of us. Some days haven't been as fruitful. Companies, large and small, individuals that have made small contributions, some large, and philanthropy and foundations, and a whole package that we wanted to roll out today that I think will shine a brighter light on our capacity to deliver, and moreover, I think reinforce the need, certainly, to do more. So with that in mind, let me introduce the first partner of the state of California, Jen Siebel-Newsom.
All right, you've been listening to California Governor Gavin Newsom handing the mic over to his wife, the first partner of the state, working on a number of different initiatives there. This clearly is an all-hands situation, to say the least, across the country, and certainly there in California, where, fair to say, Governor Gavin Newsom getting some pretty high marks for his handling of this crisis, Carol.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been following, certainly, what he has to say and how they're planning to get that huge economy, so important to the United States, back on track. We're following that. We're also following big time the energy markets. And we do want to, in Business Week Economics at this hour, take a look at oil. An ounce of gold has never bought more barrels of crude in history. That fun fact coming from the Bloomberg, courtesy of Charlie Pellet. Let's talk about what's going on in the energy markets. Ellen Wald, certainly well known to our Bloomberg Radio and Bloomberg Business Week Radio audience, president of Transversal Consulting, senior fellow at the Atlantic Council's Global Energy Center. She wrote the book Saudi Inc. on the history of Aramco and Saudi Arabia. She joins us on the phone from Jacksonville, Florida. Ellen, nice to have you here with us. I hope you're doing well and your family doing okay, staying safe.
Yes, we're all good here.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And I do wonder, we kicked off our show saying, a penny for a barrel of oil. Like, you can't even get your head around that. Explain to me what is going on. Explain to our audience what's going on in the energy market right now. Is it all about just oversupply here?
Well, when the show started, it was a penny for a barrel of oil, and now the price has actually turned negative. But it's important to understand what we're actually talking about, because it's a big headline, oil prices turn negative. But what we're talking about very specifically is the price on WTI, which is the U.S. benchmark, West Texas International, the price for that contract that expires in May, and that contract expires tomorrow. So this is really the last day for trading on that particular oil for delivery in May. And so what this says is basically that everyone who wanted to buy oil for May has bought that oil and they don't want to buy any more of it. There's been fairly small trade volume in terms of trading oil on that May contract. If you look, in fact, at the June contract for WTI, it's actually much higher. It's in the 20s. Not that that's a very high price, but it's much higher than a penny or negative prices. And there's much more volume on that contract. So as a result, the price for these May contracts just kept falling until it went negative. Now, does that mean that someone will pay you to buy oil? Not really. That's not really what it means, but essentially it means no one is interested in buying oil in the month of May or for the month of May, and also that there's very little storage capacity left to store that oil, because there have always been people out there who will buy oil and then store it in the hopes that they can sell it later for more money. And so the problem we're seeing is that demand for oil has dropped so precipitously, so fast and so much that we're running out of places to store that oil. And so that's how you get in these situations like this one, where just at the end of that contract, it went negative.
And so what's interesting, Ellen, is as we look out, the oil futures market actually paints a picture of an economy that looks a little better by the end of the year. You get to sort of November-ish time frame, and things seem a lot more rational. Keep me honest. Is that true? And how do we look at that as a barometer for the larger economy here?
Yeah, well, if you look at the contracts for WTI for November right now, or at least I'm looking at them a bit, an hour or two behind, but they're much higher. They're in the 30s. Now that's not all that great,
right?
For oil companies, but it's much better than what we're looking at for next month. And so that does say that at least in the longer term, we're looking at a growth in demand. Unless, and I think that could change because there's not a whole lot of buying and selling. There's not a whole lot of volume on those contracts, but what they're going for now certainly says that demand should be higher.
Ellen, just got about 40 seconds left here. In terms of the longer play here, there's talk about support for the American energy industry and certainly some of the shale players. Should that be done, or do you think we need to let the markets play their forces and kind of let it find where it should be settling on its own? Let market forces basically win here. And just about 25 seconds.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure for that, and there's a lot of pressure for that to happen. I think that it's not clear that anything that they can do will actually save jobs, and that it's probably best, and I do think the consensus now is that you've got to just let the market take its course.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much. Really good to catch up with you, Ellen Wald. We were trying to sort of figure out our show today. Carol, you were the first to be like, let's just get Ellen Wald. She'll make sense of it all for us. And she did. We really appreciate it. President of Transversal Consulting, also a Bloomberg opinion contributor, which is part of the reason we know she's so smart. Let's get over to Bob Moon. He's got a world of national headlines. Hey, Bob.
Jason, thank you. Never has that WTI quote on the Bloomberg terminal looked so odd. In the past hour, it read minus $37.63 a barrel. WTI futures for May trading in negative territory for the first time ever, reflecting how desperate traders have become to avoid taking delivery of physical crude and showing just how oversupplied the U.S. market is. Today's plunge has broken every low for oil prices since 1946. With a bipartisan deal for more emergency federal spending not quite nailed down, the U.S. Senate met in a brief session and scheduled another one tomorrow in case the bill is ready. One of the things they talked about, suppose your source for information, your local newspaper, TV, or radio station, shut down right now. Not a good time? Here's Bloomberg's Irv Chapman.
One senator took the floor to propose that companies that run local news media be made eligible for federal money. Maria Cantwell of Washington State.
These are the people who are on the front line of delivering the information to us about this crisis, and they are helping to build a community of truth and transparency. We need to help them during this crisis.
Senator Cantwell noted that without advertising revenue, numbers of reporters have been laid off all over the country when numbers of readers, listeners, and viewers are soaring. In Washington, Irv Chapman, Bloomberg Radio.
A ray of hope today as New York's daily death rate falls below 500, and New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says the Empire State may be starting to descend from its peak. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. I'm Bob Moon.
When you follow the facts.
Bloomberg's been reporting on this intelligence community report.
When you seek out the experts.
The investment banks that Bloomberg speak to also want some relief.
No matter what else is happening.
It's been pretty hard to read the signals.
At least you know what's real.
The economic fallout from the virus risks becoming entrenched.
Bloomberg Daybreak Europe. Weekdays at 1 a.m. Eastern. On Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba,
please be done.
Over and over and over and over and over, then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Sounds good, honey.
Check today at NHTSA.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
the Bloomberg Business of Sports podcast.
How did the Yankees become this mega valuable team?
Where the money is flowing inside sports around the globe.
From the marketing perspective, where are the dollars spent?
From union heads to team owners, Scott Soshnick and Michael Barr speak to the names that power this multi-billion-dollar industry.
Boston Red Sox CEO Sam Kennedy.
National Hockey League Commissioner Gary Bettman.
Bloomberg Business of Sports. Listen today on Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, or subscribe on Apple Podcasts.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Are you in? Okay, people, I've got the daily checklist. Who today has ignored a call on purpose? Tick. Talked yourself out of a workout? Tick. Spent far too long scrolling on your phone? Tick. Here's another for your list. BritBox. Streaming the BBC, ITV, Channel 5, and now Channel 4. All in one place and ad-free. So add BritBox to your list and get a 30-day free trial of the biggest box of British box sets. Search BritBox free trial. Tick. Biggest compared to other SVOD providers. Auto-renews at $5.99 a month unless cancelled. T's and C's apply.
Typical Danny. Last night I was chilling with my girls, but ended up spilling my Chardonnay all over my fave lilac nightie when I saw the photo I was tagged in. State of my fake tan. But no worries. Just one wash and my clothes will smell perf with Surf. Surf gives you long-lasting fragrance with natural essential oils. Find your fragrance in Surf's laundry range.
This is a message from the government. Coronavirus is a national emergency, life-threatening for people of all ages everywhere in the UK. To help save lives, stay home. Only go outside for food, health reasons, daily exercise, or to work, but only if you cannot work from home. Stay home. Anyone can get it, and anyone can spread it. Coronavirus. Stay home, protect the NHS, save lives.
At Lloyds Bank, we're here to help you when you need it most. So here are some ways we're helping you manage your money. We won't charge interest on the first £500 of an arranged overdraft. You can apply for a payment holiday on credit cards, loans and mortgages. And we'll also give you emergency access to savings in fixed-term accounts without charge. Lloyds Bank, now more than ever, we're by your side. Visit our website for terms and conditions.
Stay in touch with your loved ones with great phones at great prices from Tesco Mobile. Like the incredible iPhone 7 with advanced HD front camera. Perfect for video calling. For just $13.99 a month. That's our lowest ever price. Search Tesco Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Ends 14th of June. Was £15.99. 36-month credit and rolling monthly usage agreements with Tesco Mobile required. Subject to status. Phase policy applies. See tescomobile.com/terms.
With the NHL season temporarily on ice, now is a good time to catch up on past games.
Bergeron, he scores!
With game replay on TuneIn, you can listen to every power play, slap shot, and goal of the 2019-2020 season so far.
Suter to Cunnin to Fiala, he scores!
And for a limited time, it's free for hockey fans everywhere. Search classic game replays to start listening.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
TuneIn makes it easy to be a part of the conversation. Just make sure push notifications are enabled to hear about breaking news and trending topics from around the sports world. You'll also get custom recommendations of podcasts and radio stations covering the sports and teams you care about. Get your MLB fix with these great podcasts on TuneIn. Fill your seventh inning stretch with the Ringer MLB Show.
I just can't get over it. It's like, well, Jeter Downs didn't realize he was a top. Like, my dad is drinking the Kool-Aid on this. He's like, of course. Mookie was going to leave. I'm like, what do you mean? You don't know that.
Slide into second with the Starting Nine podcast.
Nolan Arenado slides right into the top spot for a favorite baseball player. Active in the league right now. It is a pleasure to be sitting next to you, sir.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
This is we've been waiting a long time for this. We actually, in terms of like active
Round the Bases with the Statcast podcast.
Ways of going about it. I picked third, so in some ways it made it easier for me. Mike, just to go over the first couple of picks. Mike took Barry Bonds, who I think was kind of the obvious guy to take number one. Not only
catch these and more MLB podcasts right here on TuneIn.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. The Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ all lower. In fact, we are bouncing along the bottom on this back-to-work Monday. We've got crude oil, West Texas Intermediate, with a negative handle. Let's head right over to the first word breaking news desk for today's afternoon call. Here he is, Bill Maloney.
And good afternoon, Charlie. That's right. U.S. stocks under pressure amid the plunge in oil. Dow's currently down 568 points. S&P's dropped 48. NASDAQ is lower by 72. Note the S&P 500 fell back below its 50-day moving average. The U.S. 10-year yield at 0.62%. You mentioned oil. WTI crude futures traded at a negative price for the first time. Small caps are down 2.7%. Transports sink 4%. Semis are under pressure, down 2%. And the VIX is higher by 12%. Leaders to the upside in the Dow, J&J and Verizon, while Boeing and Dow Inc. led to the downside. After earnings, Halliburton was little changed, and wrapping things up, IBM reports after the bell. Live from the first breaking news desk, I'm Bill Maloney. Charlie?
All right, we thank you very much, Bill. We'll have those IBM numbers as they break into here live. Breaking news over your Bloomberg type squawk, SQUAWK on your terminal. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thanks so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Jason Kelly, Carol Masser here with you on a Monday afternoon. And as we look around the world, as we often do, we look to China and we look to one man to help us figure it all out. It's a big task, but man, he keeps proving up to it. Right, Carol?
Totally.
He's our guy. He's our guy. Andy Brown. He is the editorial director of Bloomberg New Economy.
Well, we'll see. We're bringing him in now.
Yeah,
so
a little pressure here. But a really fascinating column today, Andy, that we were reading, because you take us back to 91 when you moved to Beijing, a very different time, to say the least. And yet, a lot of people have been pointing back to that period because it was a little bit of a dark time, sort of like we're in now, and what came after was pretty remarkable.
Right. Yeah. The reason I refer back to this is, as you say, I moved to Beijing in 1991. This was 2 years after the People's Liberation Army had put down the Tiananmen Square pro-democracy protests, and the conventional wisdom at that time among journalists and analysts was that China had set back its economic development by at least a generation, and the foreign business community, much of the foreign business community had fled. I mean, the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, had drilled machine gun holes in one of the biggest hotels in Beijing, the China World Hotel, and some of at least one of the foreign diplomatic compounds where we ended up living. And, American executives and their families were cowering in Hong Kong and Manila and elsewhere. And who knew, right at that moment, China was on the cusp of the greatest economic expansion in history. And it just skipped through from that moment, pretty much every adversity that the world threw at it. From the Asian financial crisis in the late 1990s to SARS, the Great Recession in 2008 didn't slow down China one bit. But finally, this juggernaut has met its match in COVID-19, and this economy is shrinking. It really is a historic moment.
And yet, you're right. So, like we know this virus has, Andy, upended kind of all of our projections about global growth, and certainly in terms of China's ambitions and their goals. And yet you're right that even so this has happened, we could see the pandemic speed China, along with the rest of Asia, their rise. Put that together for us.
Yeah, so by and large, the economies of East Asia have responded to coronavirus much better than economies in the West. So we know about the early Chinese missteps and cover-ups and blunderings and the suppression of doctors and journalists who were warning about this. But it's sort of recovered and it's reopening, and South Korea and Taiwan and Singapore and Hong Kong, a number of these East Asian economies have come through. They've shown that they have competent, coordinated governments, that they embrace technology, particularly technologies that allow them to track and trace infections. They're nimble, they're agile, they're dynamic, like Asian companies. And it's hard not to come to the conclusion that, at the New Economy Forum, we've always had a sense that we've always acknowledged the center of gravity of the global economy is moving east.
Right.
And it just seems as though this coronavirus has accelerated that trend.
And so, Andy, when you think about what that acceleration looks like and the trajectory of it, what is it, not to be too parochial here, but what does it mean for the United States?
Yeah, to me, this is still all to play for. There are a lot of people who talk about the inevitability of a China century or, an Asian century. I'm not quite buying it. It's interesting when quite often from the outside, outside of China, people looking in, they make China up to be this unstoppable juggernaut, but when you actually live there, you become acutely aware of the monumental challenges and problems, environment, demographic, and governance, and so on. And the opposite is true in America. Often people make the mistake of thinking that the United States is on this sort of inevitable trajectory, sunset trajectory. And then when you live here, you become aware of America's colossal advantages. From its deep pools of capital to the best higher education in the world, the environment. I'm looking out right now over one of the most pristine bodies of water in the world, which is Lake Sunapee in New Hampshire. And China doesn't have a body of water anywhere close to this. So, the issue really is how the West responds to this pandemic. Does it use it as an opportunity to renew, to rejuvenate, or not?
Well, I think about how I'm using this time to reset some things in my life, and I do wonder exactly what you're saying, Andy, of whether or not the United States and Europe use it as a reset for themselves. Jason, you're smiling.
They say, as Carol Masser goes, so goes China. So,
Stop it. Andy Brown is the best of Bloomberg New Economy. This is Bloomberg Radio.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Oil fell below zero for the first time ever as demand collapses. Traders were in a bind as the May futures contract expired, not wanting to get stuck owning crude with nowhere to store it, with tanks nearing their limits. May crude settled at minus $37.63 a barrel. The June futures contract closed lower, but was still positive at just over $20. Stocks remain sharply lower. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is leading the retreat, down 584. The S&P 500 down 50. The Nasdaq Composite down 81. Walmart is abandoning its hopes of becoming a giant in online video. It agreed to sell the streaming service Vudu to Fandango. Terms were not disclosed. Your car isn't worth nearly what it was a month ago. Auto auctioneer Manheim says wholesale car prices fell nearly 12% in the first half of April. It's a decline that will easily set a record if it holds for the full month. Lowry Kofsky, Bloomberg Radio.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
What if you could keep the top economic experts in a conference room next to your office without having to feed them?
Do we need better optics? Do we need some substance? Do CEOs care about ESG?
We have seen quite a lot of stimulus pumped into the system already.
It's the biggest warning yet about the financial risks of climate change.
Now there are more ways to hear us. Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business, Radio.com, and iHeartRadio apps, and at BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
This is a message from the government. Coronavirus is a national emergency, life-threatening for people of all ages everywhere in the UK. To help save lives, stay home. Only go outside for food, health reasons, daily exercise, or to work, but only if you cannot work from home. Stay home. Anyone can get it, and anyone can spread it. Coronavirus. Stay home, protect the NHS, save lives.
Right now at the Halifax, wherever we're working from,
we're all working together to be there for you.
So our customers can apply for a payment holiday on mortgages, loans or credit cards.
And because we want you to stay home and stay safe,
we've created step-by-step guides to help you set up online and mobile banking,
which is safer and easier than you may think.
But for those that really need to see us in person, we're keeping as many branches open as possible.
So however you need us at the Halifax,
we're here to help. Terms and conditions apply. For more information, go to halifax.co.uk.
Stay in touch with your loved ones with great phones at great prices from Tesco Mobile. Like the incredible iPhone 7 with advanced HD front camera. Perfect for video calling. For just $13.99 a month. That's our lowest ever price. Search Tesco Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Ends 14th of June. Was £15.99. 36-month credit and rolling monthly usage agreements with Tesco Mobile required. Subject to status. Phase policy applies. See tescomobile.com/terms.
To help make the most of your time at home, TuneIn is sharing our top activities for social distancing. Tip 3, have a game night. In fact, why not make it a game day? Whether you're quarantined with kids or roommates, nothing passes the time like a game of cards, Pictionary, charades, dominoes, or Never Have I Ever. If you've got the hardware, break out the video game console and enjoy hours of guilt-free gaming. For more indoor inspiration, search Listen From Home on TuneIn.
How do you keep track of all your favorite stations and podcasts? Easy. You add them to your favorites list. Just find the audio you want to bookmark and tap the heart icon. Then whenever you want to browse your favorites, you'll find everything under the Favorites tab.
The 2020 NFL Draft is on ESPN Radio on TuneIn. Starting Thursday, April 23rd, ESPN Radio has you covered with live coverage, discussions, and analysis of every pick from every round. Be there when the future stars of the NFL find their home and when your team selects the players that will shape their future for seasons to come. Don't miss the biggest event of the offseason with ESPN Radio on TuneIn.
Get your MLB fix with these great podcasts on TuneIn. Fill your seventh inning stretch with the Ringer MLB Show.
I just can't get over it. It's like, oh, well, Jeter Downs. Didn't realize he was a top. Like, my dad is drinking the Kool-Aid on this. He's like, of course. Mookie was going to leave. I'm like, what do you mean? You don't know that.
Slide into second with the Starting Nine podcast.
Nolan Arenado slides right into the top spot for a favorite baseball player. Active in the league right now. It is a pleasure to be sitting next to you, sir.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
This is we've been waiting a long time for this. We actually, in terms of like active
on the bases with the Statcast podcast.
Ways of going about it. I picked third, so in some ways it made it easier for me. Mike, just to go over the first couple of picks. Mike took Barry Bonds, who I think was kind of the obvious guy to take number one. Not only
catch these and more MLB podcasts right here on TuneIn.
Broadcasting live to New York, Bloomberg 1130. To Washington, D.C., Bloomberg 99.1. To Boston, Bloomberg 106.1. To San Francisco, Bloomberg 960. To the country, Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
Coming up, we're going to have Dave Wilson's chart of the day. It's all about volatility. We've had some experience with that. Then we're going to drive to the close. Later on, we're going to catch up with the owner of 11 Madison Park, the CEO of Pittsburgh's airport. A lot to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to where we are and how we get out of this. All right, let's get another check on your top business stories and update on the trading day. We've been kind of bouncing around here, Charlie Pellet.
28 minutes to go, Carol Massar. Happy Monday to you both, by the way. The Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ, all declining. Governor Newsom delivering his daily briefing says California virus deaths have risen by 42 from yesterday, now stand at 1,208. In California, virus hospitalizations up by 1.9%. Bottom line, losing day for the U.S. stock market today. Stocks falling from a 6-week high. Investors on edge as oil futures plunge to unprecedented levels. I'm talking negative numbers on West Texas Intermediate crude. An absolutely unprecedented wipeout. Sellers now actually paying buyers to take the stuff off their hands. Gold up 0.7%, higher by $11 the ounce at $16.94. The 10-year up 6/32, yield there 0.62%. S&P down 40, a drop of 1.4%. The Dow down 500 points now, lower by 2.1%. NASDAQ bouncing along the bottom close to the low of the day, down 53, a drop there of 0.6%. Well, lots of questions about the coronavirus pandemic and if there's a glimmer of hope in flattening the curve. Dr. Joshua Scharfstein is Vice Dean of the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. He was interviewed this morning on Bloomberg Television.
Well, what we have seen recently in the United States is a plateau, and that is good news because we clearly were worried about having so many people with severe disease from COVID that it would overwhelm the healthcare system.
And again, the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all lower. And should mention the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health is supported by Michael R. Bloomberg, founder of Bloomberg LP and Bloomberg Philanthropies. Shake Shack's going to return a $10 million loan from the U.S. government amid criticism that the publicly traded burger chain and other large companies gobbled up the emergency funding while smaller businesses were frozen out. Shake Shack shares, they're up today by 5.1% right now at $45.70. Again, recapping negative oil prices. We've got the Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ all lower. S&P down 40, a drop there of 1.4%. IBM will report after the closing bell. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week right here on Bloomberg Radio.
Shaking all over.
Wasn't awake.
Yeah, I'm up.
Mom,
I'm up.
Totally. Dave Wilson is with us, Bloomberg stocks editor, with his chart of the day. Who was that?
Yes.
No way.
Yes.
Newer yes? Or old yes?
No, who? It was the Who.
There you go.
Oh, got it.
You said who was it, and you said yes.
It. I was thinking yes, the band yes. I'm like, really? Okay.
You're like, I listened to some yes
Who's
back
that
in the
first?
day.
What's that second? I don't know. Who's that third?
Exactly.
Oh, my God.
All right, Dave Wilson. We're all awake here on a Monday, thanks to our engineer, Reggie, who, maybe he knew we needed a little kick there, Carol.
You certainly got one, that's for sure.
Yeah, we got it.
Totally.
We got it. Shake it all over. Is that a little volatility reference?
Exactly. Smaller turns shakier. That's the headline of today's chart. It's all about a comparison of volatility indexes. Now, we talk about the VIX day in and day out based on the value of S&P 500 options. Well, there's a similar gauge for the Russell 2000. The ticker on that one is RVX. And what's happened is you've seen a gap open up between the RVX and the VIX as volatility overall has come down. So what's resulted from that is that the RVX is higher than the VIX by the widest margin ever. Now, ever goes back to the early 2000s when the Russell, got this index, this RVX. So, that's something that really stands out because, we've seen smaller companies failing to keep pace with larger ones for a while in the stock market. And so now you've got sort of a fear factor built in terms of this volatility comparison. And Julian Emanuel over at BTIG, who's their head of equity and derivatives strategy, pointed this out last week in a report. And the way he saw it, it's basically the effect of the coronavirus, how it's playing out with smaller companies that's being reflected in this widening gap, that they basically have more to lose in a lot of cases. So that's the relationship. And, the previous record goes back to 2009, right around the time that the bull market was starting back then. So, we're talking about a real shift here. And if you want to know more, folks, send me an email. I'll get you the chart, the explanation that goes with it, and everything I do going forward. The email address is dwilson@bloomberg.net. That's dwilson@bloomberg.net.
The bull market.
On a logical level, though, it makes sense, right, Dave? Because smaller companies are going to be more vulnerable. They don't have necessarily the different conduits or financial conduits that they can tap into, right? For
or
funds,
the safety net,
right? Or the safety net. So it kind of makes sense that these guys are potentially much more vulnerable.
Yeah, or potentially the cash on hand, or the breadth of business, or any of the sort of what you might call mitigating factors that would come into play with larger companies. So, that's how it's played out. And we've certainly seen, the small caps, the Russell 2000 has kept up with the S&P 500 for a while. And so now you're introducing even more risk.
Did you see the TV benefit over the weekend?
Bits and pieces. That's
the Global
about
Citizen
it.
thing.
Global Citizens, yeah. I was just curious. I thought the Stones playing, man.
That was cool.
Was so cool.
Lady Gaga.
Air drums.
I did see some of that.
Yeah, that was kind of one of my favorites. I was just curious, Dave.
Okay.
Carol needs another dose of the Who to maybe jolt her into being a little more lively for the balance of the show.
You watched a
little bit. I actually caught little clips on Twitter here and there.
Yeah.
I didn't sit and watch.
Yeah, we did.
Part because I really wanted to be outside. There was like going on.
It was at night, Jason. It was 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night.
Was it?
Were you still out?
No, it was like 8 hours.
No.
There was the TV show, and then there was the online version. The online version went 8 hours.
Yeah, I just watched the couple of hours at night.
You were just watching on the TV?
I was on the old TV.
On the TV. All right, Dave Wilson.
Thanks, Dave.
We will talk to you just after the close of trading for your stock of the day. Always appreciate Dave's insights. And coming up, we are going to get you to the close. Stocks sort of have taken a leg down since we started the show. They were flirting with their highs of the day, and now down on the lower tier, as they say.
All right, let's get a check on world and national news headlines. Back over to Bob when we go. Hey, Bob.
Hi, Carol. Thank you. The pressure builds to get the United States back to work, with some states seeing politically motivated public protests, which President Trump is seeking to use to his advantage. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says as people try to claim the idea as their own, he shares the sentiment, but so do we all.
Nobody disagrees that we want to get out of this situation. Nobody. You don't need protests to convince anyone in this country that we have to get back to work and we have to get the economy going and we have to get out of our homes.
Just be smart, incremental, and safe, Cuomo says, and realistic.
There's a sanity quotient to this whole situation. There's only so long you can say to people, stay in the house and lock the door.
Boeing and a small number of other manufacturers around the U.S. are gearing up today to resume production amid pressure from President Trump and resistance from governors who warn there's not enough testing yet to keep the coronavirus from rebounding. Indeed, there's a stark warning today from the head of the World Health Organization about the coronavirus. Speaking at a news conference in Geneva, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said ominously, "Trust us, the worst is yet ahead of us."
Let's prevent this tragedy. It's a virus that many people still don't understand.
The WHO leader said lockdowns alone will not end the pandemic. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. I'm Bob Moon.
Elite advisory firms rely on BNY Mellon's Pershing to meet the needs of their most complex clients. Karen Novak, Chief Operating Officer at Pershing Advisor Solutions, explains how.
At BNY Mellon's Pershing, we bring customized insights and strategies to help you grow your advisory business and stay on the leading edge. We can support the needs of your most sophisticated clients with a full range of investment and wealth management solutions, from access to private banking to consolidated bank and brokerage custody. Learn why so many of the largest advisory firms turn to us for the financial strength and high-touch service that BNY Mellon's Pershing can provide. Are you well positioned to stand out from your competition?
Learn more at Pershing.com or call 800-445-4467. Brokerage custody provided by Pershing LLC and other services provided by Pershing Advisor Solutions LLC. Both members of FINRA and SIPC. Private banking and bank custody provided by BNY Mellon NA. Member FDIC.
Message and data rates may apply. T&C and privacy terms can be found at babbel.com/terms. Please don't text and drive.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but you thought it'd be too hard or take too much time? Then try Babbel for free by texting EXPLORE to 64,000. In just 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. And right now, you can try Babbel for free. Babbel starts out teaching you words and phrases by matching them with pictures. You won't believe how easy the interactive program is. Soon the sentences get a little bigger, and before you know it, you're having simulated conversations voiced by native speakers. And because Babbel is crafted by language experts and uses the spaced repetition method, in just 10 to 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking the language of your choice with real confidence. With Babbel, you can speak a language. Just text EXPLORE to 64,000 and start your first lesson in the language of your choice for free. Download the Babbel app or text EXPLORE to 64,000 and try it for free. Text EXPLORE to 6.
Okay, people, I've got the daily checklist. Who today has eaten dinner for breakfast? Tick. Started a chore you'll never finish? Tick. Done a conference call in your pajamas? Tick. Here's another for your list. BritBox. Streaming the BBC, ITV, Channel 5 and now Channel 4. All in one place and ad-free. So add BritBox to your list and get a 30-day free trial of the biggest box of British box sets. Search BritBox free trial. Tick. Biggest compared to other SVOD providers. Auto renews at $5.99 a month unless cancelled. T's and C's apply.
I'm Mel Kiper Jr., and to get you ready for the NFL Draft, you can listen to my podcast, First Draft, as Todd McShay, Chris Sproul, and I highlight all the top picks and give you the analysis you need leading up to the draft. Just search ESPN Radio today.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
Want to know a great way to discover the latest and greatest sports audio on TuneIn? It's easy. Just make sure push notifications are enabled on your phone to receive recommendations of sports talk radio and podcasts, along with important breaking news updates.
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
The NHL is always on the ice with these awesome hockey podcasts on TuneIn. Get your goal with the Spittin' Chicklets podcast.
Brian Yandel, Keith Yandel, thanks for coming on. What's going on?
Nothing much. Glad to be here. You guys got some nice digs here.
We heard you took Southwest 2-stop flight to get out here.
Yeah, well, just...
Carve up the ice with NHL at the rink.
The other day, I wrote a story. Artemi Panarin, Semyon Varlamov, Sergei Bobrovsky, they all helped arrange for the purchase of N95 masks to benefit hospitals in their respective markets. This is another one of those positive stories you're seeing.
Or create your own power play with Locked On NHL.
All these teams invested future assets to take a run at the Stanley Cup right now. Like, all of those teams would have a real serious gripe, like trading these multiple first-round picks to make a run at a cup.
you're right.
Discover these and more NHL podcasts right here on TuneIn. Hit the court anytime with these great NBA podcasts on TuneIn. The Low Post.
So what struck you about this potential head-to-head matchup? What did we learn now that Zion is involved and LeBron and Zion go at each other for the first time?
You know, I still think both teams have to figure out kind of who are their guys when they get into a fourth quarter. I think you saw that with both of them. There were some kind of odd moments.
The Ringer NBA Show.
Who ended up winning the thing. But I did watch for a little bit when it was DeAndre Ayton and Zach LaVine playing against each other. And then as the days went on, Devin Booker was involved. Tell me you've seen the clip of Devin Booker when I can't remember who his opponent was.
Or the Haber Show.
At the end, it's because I worked in the NBA in the front office, and when I was 14 years old, my family moved back from Sudan to America. I jumped high school here in New York
Find these
City.
and more NBA podcasts right here on TuneIn.
Headlines and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. We've got 13 minutes to go ahead of the closing bell. Stocks falling from a 6-week high. Investors on edge as oil futures plunge to unprecedented levels, and a spate of corporate earnings on tap. IBM after the closing bell. NYMEX WTI crude May futures settled at minus 37.63 a barrel. They're paying you to take away the oil. We've got the S&P down 42, a drop of 1.5%. The Dow down 514, a drop of 2.1%. NASDAQ down 63, that is a drop of 0.7%. 10-year up 7/30 seconds with a yield of 0.61%. Gold up 0.8% right now, $16.95 the ounce. Again, recapping equities lower here with the S&P down 43, a drop of 1.5%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
I'm driving in my car. I turn on the radio.
How about you let me drive?
Oh, no. Who's gonna drive you home? Honey, please, I'll do the driving. Drive on.
Excuse me, I want to drive.
Just drive, baby.
It's the question that drives us.
This is the Drive to the Close.
That funky music will drive us till the dawn.
On Bloomberg Radio.
It is time for the drive to the close. Just about 11 minutes left in the trading day. Jeff Kruppelman is back with us, a friend of the show, chief investment strategist and head of equities at Marine Wealth Advisors. He joins us on the phone from Cincinnati, and that's exactly where the company is based. Jeff, nice to have you here again with us. How are you doing?
I think like everybody else, staying safe and kind of staying, I think, poised and focused and doing the best that we can, but doing well. How about you?
Doing okay. I mean, I agree. I think Jason would agree as well. We've all kind of gotten into a new rhythm, a new world order, if you will. What's going on in Cincinnati? Give us a little bit of the lay of the land and how people are doing generally and what's going on.
Well, we've been blessed to have a governor that kind of has led and gotten way ahead of this. And so we've been social distancing like everybody else. And, we're working mostly from homes right now. And as I talk to local hospital and healthcare executives, I can tell you just, anecdotally, I get kind of word and feedback like we were building, to triple or more than that, our ICU capacity, and we're finding that we're only having to do a fraction of that, and that we were looking to have to build out capacity that would be temporary and maybe at other sites, and that we just don't see that happening right now. So this idea of bending the curve and doing what we need to do, and having a governor that has been very, very much a leader, I think, nationally. And just saying, hey, we've got to get in front of this and make sure that we don't stop it from spreading more than it should. So I think Ohio, Cincinnati, we're trying to do our part.
Yeah, pretty interesting, right? I mean, to see how, and we've talked about this a ton on this show, Jeff, just sort of how governors have really had to step to the fore. And, Mike DeWine, your governor, it was not easy for him early on because he was a little bit, as you say, sort of out there on his own to some extent.
Yeah, and it sounds like, there's pressure now being put on the governors. And I think that, this whole kind of dialogue about when do we reopen, how does that take place, there's a lot of execution risk that's involved in doing that. And so, as you know, we've been cautiously optimistic here throughout. We unlike previous periods where we were outrageously bullish on the market back in 2018, when everyone else was pretty negative, it was, for us, relatively easy to do that because you could go to the data, and the data was good while the mood was negative and valuation was great. Here you've got horrible data, if you look at the economy near term, but you have kind of, the cavalry to the rescue here, doing the right things on the stimulus front to get us through the gap, and you have the coronavirus kind of curve being bent. But we want to see improvement there. But that keeps you positive longer term that this will be transitory. But I got to tell you, short term, there's a lot of execution risk. So unlike that previous period when we were, hey, buy on the dips, get after this, it's a wonderful moment, we're more thoughtful in saying hold your ground, trade up where you can into higher quality stocks for now. But it looks like if we manage this like we think we can, that over the next 12 months, we will be at a much better place.
So, we love talking about names. So tell us where you're trading up. Give us some examples of what you might be shedding and what you might be picking up.
Sure. And, it's funny because sometimes when you do this, they'll question, they'll say, why in the world did you do that? I mean, that just feels like moving dirt, Jeff.
I like that. But, moving dirt. That's going to stay with us.
Yeah, move that dirt pile. But to us, it was thoughtful and we hope, smart and successful. So an example within consumer discretionary where, you've had a lot of pressure, the retailers under a lot of pressure. We recently sold Best Buy in our flagship strategy, and we bought Target. Why did we do that? Well, I recently moved, and I had a wall mount, a 65-inch screen TV, and I got to tell you, I wanted an installer to do that next time. And, it's a thoughtful electronic kind of, purchase where you want to go in and you want to test drive these things and see it. So Target, on the other hand, is selling consumables and staples to a large extent, product categories that are selling off the shelves like, hotcakes, and nice dividend yield, nice balance sheet, good management. So we just think that it's over the next 3 to 6 months in a much better, part of the curve there. Another example of a trade we did was selling some oil stocks. We sold some EOG. We sold onsemi, which is a auto-related semiconductor stock, very